Hi, seventh graders. Today we are going to focus on writing equations. So we've been solving some equations. Now we're going to start writing them and also then solving them. So as you are writing an equation, some steps that you want to pay attention to. All right. First, you want to make sure you're reading the problem carefully. Okay, so the first step anytime you see a word problem is to read it. The second thing is we want to define the variable. So we want to actually look at the question that's being asked and figure out, okay, what are we trying to solve for? So what could we use a variable to represent, okay? Today I'll probably use X a lot just because I default to that, but you could use any variable, any letter that you want to represent, okay? Then one thing that'll be helpful is being able to identify what's a constant, what's going to be a constant in your equation, and then what's going to be vary or change, okay? We'll write our equation, we'll solve it, and then we'll check our answer. So we'll make sure our answer seems reasonable. Okay, so number one, we have Mrs. Cleben goes to see a movie. She buys some tickets at $12 per ticket. She also buys a drink for $7.25. She spends a total of $79.25. How many tickets did she buy? So our question here, it's asking how many tickets did she buy? So that's what we're trying to solve for. So I could use any variable I want. I'm just going to use X, and this is going to represent the number of tickets I can buy. Okay? When we go to write our equation, all right, what we're going to be doing is we want to now look at, okay, is there something that's constant? This would be a one-time fee or something that was just happened one time, okay? And then the variable is going to be a rate that changes, okay? So one thing I notice here is I see this $12 per ticket, okay? Well, I don't know how many tickets I have, so $12 per ticket, I could write that as 12x, okay? The total of those tickets would be 12x. And I also know that I bought a drink for $7.25, so I can say plus $7.25, and then it's going to equal $79.25. All right, so this would actually be how my equation is set up. That's the problem that we need to solve now. So then to go about solving it, we're going to use our strategies. So right now, my variable is linked with that 12. I can't really touch it until I zero out this plus 7.25. So to undo that, I'm going to subtract 7.25. When I do that, I'm going to end up with 72 over here on the right-hand side, and now over on the left, I have 12x equals 72. So right now what this is telling me is, I had spent a total of $79.25, but if I take off the cost of my drink, that means I spent $72 on tickets, okay? And it was $12 per ticket. So now what I can do is I can divide by 12, and so then I can figure out, okay, x is going to equal 6. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see, okay, does my answer seem reasonable? So let's look back at what we solved for. We were solving for the number of tickets. So if I say x is 6, that means 6 tickets. And then a good practice is just to kind of think of your solution in a complete sentence as well. So I can say something like, okay, Mrs. Cleben was able to buy 6 tickets. And then that would be my answer. So I defined the variable, what was I solving for? I wrote the equation, we solved it, and then we wrote our solution in a sentence. All right, number 2, Oliver buys several pounds of apples at $1.85 per pound and pays $3.30 for a reusable bag. If Oliver spent a total of $18.15, how many pounds of apples did he buy? Okay, my question is asking me how many pounds of apples, so that's what my variable represents. Okay, we could use A if we want. It doesn't need to be X. All right, And then in order to write the equation, what I want to be looking now is, okay, what's something that's changing and what's something that like maybe was paid just one time, okay? So here I see $1.85 per pound. That's how much the apples cost. So I don't know how many pounds of apples, so I can write that as 1.85 times A. And then we also know that Oliver had to pay $3.30 for a reusable bag and spent a total of $18.15 altogether. So then we can go about solving this. So I need to subtract the $3.30 off. So I'm subtracting out the price of that reusable bag. And when I do that, I should get $14.85. And then right now I know that I have 1.85 A. So that means the amount that I spent just on apples, okay, is $14.85. If Mrs. Cleveland did her math correct, which I'm going to verify right now. Yes, okay. So then to figure out how many pounds of apples I was able to buy, or Oliver was able to buy, sorry, we can go ahead and we need to now divide by the price of a pound of apples, which this one is not going to come out evenly. This was a poorly written problem. So A would equal, it's going to give us kind of a crazy decimal, okay? So right now we're just going to say 8 pounds, all right? And then we can say Oliver can buy 8 pounds of apples. All right, and number 3, a bowling alley charges $8.25 per game plus $2.75 for shoe rental. If your total was $27.50, how many games did you play? So to find the variable, so we're looking at what's the question, how many games could I play? Okay, again, you could use X, I could use G to represent the number of games, okay? And then I need to create that equation. So I'm looking at, okay, I see if G is the number of games, I see 825 per game. So I can write that as 825 G. And I also had to pay $2.75. I only had to pay that one time to rent my shoes. And then I know that my total was $27.50. So then we can start our solving process. So first I'm going to subtract off that shoe rental so that I can figure out just how much I spent on games alone. So when I do that, I get $24.75. All right, now that means that I spent $24.75 on my games, and it was $8.25 per game. So I'm going to divide by $8.25, and I will get 3. So G would equal 3. And what that means then to write our answer in a complete sentence, we're just looking at, okay, like let's actually make sure that seems reasonable. Okay, if I was solving for the number of games, so I'm able to play 3 games. That seems reasonable with how much I spent total, okay? So then that's kind of our way to self-check. Ignore problem 2 right now because that was a poorly written question. I need to change some of those numbers. But these other equations, we went through the process of defining the variable, writing that equation, and making sure our answer seems reasonable. Have a great day.